welcome to another Doctor Who Big Finish review. I'm finally on my summer break after finishing my exams. Yay! I had my prom the other day, so yeah, it's all very exciting. But yeah, I thought the best way to start off sort of this summer thread of reviews would be to kick off with some Big Finish, because it's probably going to be quite a lot of Big Finish over this summer, including quite a few box sets I'm very excited to see. But today I'm going to be kicking off with one of the latest spin-offs. No, it's not Jago Lightfoot for once. I do normally, as soon as I say Big Finish spin-off, it's normally followed by Jago Lightfoot, and then that's followed by the best thing that ever exists. But it's not that today. It is in fact the new series of Unit. Now, and this isn't the new series of Unit, this is the last one, Unit Extinction. So if you've not seen the review of this and you're interested in the first series, I would recommend going and seeing that. It was actually one of my first ever Big Finish reviews. Yeah, it's quite a special little series, this, for me, because it is actually one of the first ever Big Finish things that I took a look at. But yeah, today I'm going to be taking a look at the latest release of the new series that just came out this week, and it is Unit Shutdown, which is another interesting format, because once again it follows the 4-story format, much like this, much like Doom Coalition, much like Dark Eyes, much like any other 4-part box set that you've heard of, and also the new Classic Doctor's New Monsters box set. First thing that I would say is, unless you're a Unit fan that really likes Kate and Osgood, if you're looking to get into Big Finish, I wouldn't really recommend this box set. I know quite a lot of the new series stuff is actually modelled around the new series and its format, but this one is going complete polar opposites to the actual new series format, because it actually gives breathing space for the characters. Unlike, say, the David Tennant box set, which I do believe was the 1-hour format, although it worked brilliantly, didn't really allow for some space for actual breathing space for the characters to actually sort of pan out a little bit more. But yeah, this one is a complete opposite to that, as it is essentially a whole 4-hour story dedicated over 4 episodes to one whole plot. It's not like 4 different stories connected together by a plot arc. It is essentially one story connected over 4 episodes that are sort of split apart, like the classic series. So yeah, it's pretty much the exact opposite. So if you're not a fan of the very long stretch stories, which I know quite a few people aren't, then I would maybe avoid this box set for now. But those people who are interested in Unit, maybe give this one a chance, especially as it's £20 at the moment on the Big Finish website. So the first thing for me personally, I think the easy way for me to go through this is just basically sum up the format of it, and it is of course like about 1 hour-ish, give or take, 40 minutes to 50 minutes per story. And yeah, I think the easiest way to go through it is essentially just ignore that completely and just act like it's one whole story, because it pretty much is. And the actual episodes itself have been written by different people, and I'm going to use the Big Finish website for this. Episode 1 was written by Matt Fitton, who is one of my favourite Big Finish writers, and it's called Power Cell. Episode 2 is Death in Geneva, written by Andrew Smith. Episode 3 is written by Andrew Smith, and it is The Battle of the Tower. And then we also have episode 4, the final of the series, which is Ice Station Alpha, once again written by Matt Fitton. So much like the Extinction box set is in fact following the exact same team of writers, being Andrew Smith and Matt Fitton. Worked extremely well last time because we had 2 writers that actually knew what they were doing. They could balance ideas off each other, and that worked very, very well. It's something similar to Jago and Lightfoot, that they have a team of writers that are quite consistent, and every single episode is on point with it. Same with this, because there's no leaking around the middle of writers being unsure of what to do, which is what happens in the new series. Much like Series 8, we got several different personas of the 12th Doctor, and of course the writers didn't even know how to perceive 12, because it only had like a minute worth of footage to go on. So yeah, they've actually thought it out, which is nice to see, and something that the BBC in the new series should hopefully take under control for Series 10. That would be nice, but probably unlikely. I'm going to basically go through this acting like it's one whole story. I'm going to use my notes and make the best out of it as possible. I'm not going to say everything, because that would just be pointless. Just going to give the basic summary of the story, and as I said, act like it's a whole 4-hour episode, which does sound quite dreading, to be quite honest, compared to all the other stuff, but I promise you it does actually quite fly by if you're into the Unit stuff. The series kicks off with Power Cell, and it is an interesting story. It's quite a slow burner to start with, because it is the opening to the series. Once again, something similar to Unit Extinction, because it needed to introduce the characters. But in this one, what I did really like in Fitton is he didn't faff around. It was great, because we were essentially within the first few minutes of the story, we already got an idea of what the plot was, and we had the death of a scientist who was called Mr. Harrison, and then we went on straight away to Kate and Osgood. Osgood was in a pub with some of her uni friends, which I'll come on to in a little bit, and Kate Stewart was just working, which we had, once again, 2 characters that we already know from the actual new series. We also have Josh as well, who you don't know from the new series. He's someone that's been brought on for Big Finish exclusively, and if they do ever bring Kate and Osgood back, it would be nice to actually see Josh in the actual series itself, because I do really like him in it. It's something that we don't have any faffing around. The writers assume that you know who Kate Stewart is and Osgood, which is something sort of quite relevant, because you wouldn't spend £20 to £40 on something who you don't know who the main protagonists are. So I do like the way that they've actually thought logically there and gone, right, you know who these people are, we're not going to have any time at all introducing them, we're just going to get into the story, and it works very, very well. One, we're also introduced to Josh, as I said, who we knew from the last series. There is a bit of context that is missing there in case you missed the first series, which I would sort of recommend going and seeing. If you already have it, then good for you. But yeah, if you don't, you won't really miss out for this box set. I would say that it's a standalone series, but there is a little bit of context, such as Josh, he's sort of part alien now because he's had plastic filled in his sort of bones and things from the Autumn thing from last year. So literally implants. So yeah, there's a few little bits of context in there, but it is quite simple just to follow. Basically, he's stronger than the majority of other humans because of these plastic implants. The plot itself starts with Osgood in a bit of a pub quiz with a few of her uni friends, which is very odd to see because we had like Osgood socialising with people, which she was a little bit awkward at points, which is nice. You know, it's good balancing out her character. And yeah, we meet somebody who I won't really go into, but basically he had a bit of a love interest. I think it was a little bit obvious with Osgood, and they got each other's number and things. And then throughout the next day, he kept on ringing her, and while she was in the tower, meant to be doing work and things, so there was a little bit of a distraction there. And then somebody who Osgood knew from that night got killed on the sole part of he knew Osgood, therefore they're going to try and extract his brain to find out what they are doing, which is a very grim thing, once again showing the threat straight away before we even got introduced to the villain. Then by the end of the story, that love interest also died as well, where we got introduced to the character for the first ever time of the villain, and the ending of the story basically had the villain coming into the house and attacking them, which is great, attacking Osgood in a own home. It was a great idea of a threat, it worked very well, and of course the death of that character is something that we wouldn't see in the new series, having a whole hour invested in this character, and then for them to go and die, it was quite shocking to start with. Osgood was affected by that, and that did go on to the next story as well, and I liked it, because before we even fully got to know these characters and the villain and the threat for the story, they'd already killed somebody. To have this story misaligned, which I think that this series tends to be having quite a sort of theme of female protagonists, as of course we have Kate and Osgood, which are essentially the main ones, then we have Josh, and we also have Sam as well, which comes into it a little bit later, but he isn't really in this series that much compared to the last one. And yeah, I like the idea of having female protagonists in there. And then we have Miss Lime, as I said. She's essentially the humanoid for the episode who is bad, but once again they don't faff around with that, because I know for the new series we do have female protagonists quite a lot, and it isn't always female, but it is quite often for some reason, like a female businesswoman where we think, is she working with the villain, is she not, why don't they just tell us, because it's quite obvious that she is, you know, all these things. I think they try and keep it a mystery, but with this they totally scrap that and just go, right, she's being bad, she doesn't like Kate, there isn't really much of a relationship there, and she's a bit of a cow, and it worked very, very well. I do credit the actress for that. And on to the main villain of the story. Now, last time, as I said, we had the Autons, which is something that's appeared in Doctor Who before, mainly the nesting consciousness as well, was a very Auton-based story. Next time, in Unit Series 3, we have Silence, which I think will work very well, I'm hoping. I'm guessing the atmosphere will be similar to the Weeping Angels when that comes out next month in the Classic Doctor's New Monsters box set. So yeah, we have like a villain there, which once again has been in Doctor Who, but with this one, for Series 2, we had quite a risk, because we had a villain that, as far as I know, has never appeared on Big Finish before, and certainly hasn't been in the actual series itself, and they are the Tangabushi. And yes, the name is quite weird, I'm not gonna lie. I still can't get used to it after having them saying it several times in my ears. But yeah, the Tangabushi, they are quite good. I like them. I think that they're one of those villains that you see in the episode, and you don't know anything about them. There's sort of places that they can go with them, and we don't really know fully, completely to do with them yet. But I think that if they're chosen to, they could go onto it in the future and do a bit around them in development. It reminds me a bit of the Cognoscenti from the 10th Doctor Technophobia story, where we didn't really know too much about them, but we had a bit contributing to the plot, but that was it. But they could come back at some other points. Yeah, I do like that. I thought that they were very interesting. They were rather humanoid. There was this main person called Dorlan, which sort of reminded me of a ninja. I do believe that he's the one on the front of the CGI for the box set of this release. And yeah, I liked him. He was using the sort of technology of the Tangabushi, and Unit had it in the Black Archive, but that eventually ended up escaping, and along with this power plant company that Miss Lime was using, they were using Unit technology, and the UK obviously didn't like the idea of that, and she also didn't like the government, which then led to her going to Geneva in episode 2, which once again, the international based thing, much like last time we had, I do believe, going to the Sahara, I do believe in this one, I can't remember though, but it was some desert somewhere, and then in this one we had them going to Geneva, so I do like the international scale of this. References in there to the Brigadier as well, which both of these series have been Brigadier reference centric Central so far, referencing how it's not really been much of an easy job for Kate to get to where she is. So once again, some character development in there. Kate is one of those characters that I am invested in. I think that she's one of the ones in the new series that has been written quite well. Of course, her being the actual daughter of the Brigadier works very nicely. I do like that. Of course, she automatically has something behind her because of the Brigadier. And I'm invested in her. I think that she's good. I really do like Gemma Redgrave. I think she's brilliant. And Osgood's one of those characters that we've seen just as many times, I do believe, as Kate, except the power of 3, I think. Quote me on that if I'm wrong, I don't know. But yeah, Osgood's one of those ones that we've had quite a lot of running time with. Then she died, then she came back, and then she was the Zygon thing. The Zygon two-parter was mainly based around Osgood, let's face it, in the Osgood box. Yet I don't feel invested in her at all. I couldn't see why people wanted to be like. I couldn't see at all why people wanted her to be the new companion. I personally don't see anything. I think that her background is non-existent. I don't think there's anything behind her at all to sort of go an upbringing. And there was a few references in the new series and a bit of speculation as if she was related to the old Osgood. I do believe as seen in the Daemons, and I do believe there was a reference to that in this that pretty much confirms that they are related in some way. Which I do like that, but once again, I think the Big Finish are trying their best to give her a bit of context, but I just don't think that she's a character that has any context yet. I think she's just a bit confusing and just, not confusing, she's just a bit not really very interesting. So after Kate going to Geneva, she goes to see General Avery, and he's not really very happy yet. He's interested that she doesn't really trust the government because she doesn't know who to trust in England anymore. And yeah, I like that segment. I do really like the Geneva parts of the story. Osgood goes off, gets confronted, I do believe, by Dolan in a gallery. I can't remember where, but I think it was a gallery. And yeah, it was a nice scene. And then by the end of the story, there was 2 murders, which is why it's called Death in Geneva, of I do believe some civilian tourists, they were boyfriend and girlfriend or something like that, and then they got killed, and on the Alps, and it was quite distressing. Well, it wasn't distressing, but it was a nice death. That makes me sound very grim, but yeah, it was good. Once again, this is now by time 2 episodes in. We've not really had much of a confrontation with the Tangabushi, yet they've killed one of the main characters that we're invested in episode 1. I do believe they killed somebody else in episode 1, and now we have 2 civilian backpackery people, tourists, that have just been killed for no reason and had their brains extracted. And then, by the end of the story, General Avery goes in his car and he gets killed as well. And there's this very grim scene, and for I can work out from sort of the sound effects that they use, he goes in his car, sits down, and then the Tangabushi turns around at him and then somehow shoots him, I think, and it goes through his head here, and goes on, like, sort of, you have a splat on the windscreen behind. And I'm not going to lie, when I actually heard it the first time, I was like, oh, right. But you sort of hear like a liquefying effect, which I do believe is them liquefying his brain. So yeah, it's quite grim for sound effects. It worked very, very well. And then, of course, in episode 1, we also had the death of Anna, which she was a sort of person who, once again, was related to Kate by she was her runner person in the car who sort of took her places. And because she knew Kate for that sole reason, they extracted the stuff from her mind, found out that she was in Geneva, and Josh then needed to ring them to inform, and that's how Osgood sort of got confronted. But yeah, I did like that. And then the very ending, I do believe, to episode 2 was a very powerful one, actually. It was a plane crash. For the second time Kate's been in a plane crash, I think, now. Or Osgood has even. And yeah, it was nice. It was a very, I could imagine it being brilliant in CGI, honestly. It was a very gripping moment when the Tangabushi were sort of hijacking the plane, essentially. Worked very well. I did enjoy that. I think that it was a great cliffhanger. Got resulted in them crashing the plane in part 3. And then they went back to London for the main episode of the story, I like to think, which was the Battle of the Tower. Probably my favourite episode of the series. It's in London, which I really like. It's in the Tower of London, and the Tangabushi come and basically sort of hide a bit out to start with as tourists. And there's this funny scene where he questions, I think it's Henry VIII or some other monarchy person who was, is he like the leader of the world or something? And they got a bit alerted of how he didn't know this, like the Tangabushi person. I do believe it was Dolan at that point. And yeah, they attacked the tower, and it was a very interesting scene. And we introduced Sir Peter. I do believe that he was in part 1, but he just sort of, as soon as they were attacking, considering he's a Sir and quite high authority, He was sort of a bit like, oh, you know, nervous and all, like hiding under a table, I think, literally. And yeah, it was very nice. It was nice to see Kate actually try and battle these creatures. And then Osgood was trying to fiddle out how to use the device and things, and it ended up that they actually tried to explode half of the tower, and they escaped on boat, and it was all very dramatic along the Thames. And they used a hologram later on in the episode to hide the tower itself, and they closed off the tower, and they put a hologram over the top to make it look like the tower was all okay to all the civilians. And yeah, I thought that was very interesting. And by the end of it, because the tower was even more destroyed by the end of part 4, they were rebuilding it again, and I do believe they said it took about 6 weeks or something, and they used like an aging brickwork thing, alien technology, to make it look all old and things, which I do very like. I like the way that they try to sort of influence Doctor Who as well as modern day life. I think that's very good. This is in episode 3. We also get a few links as well to the new series, also the Brigadier, of course, and then earlier on in the story, we had a few references to the Doctor. He was even referenced on some CCTV of why he has a bow tie and things. So yeah, they're trying very hard to reference Matt Smith and literally have him there, but of course they can't for legal reasons yet. But yeah, I think that was nice, once again bringing it in. Osgood still has the TARDIS call as her ringtone, which is nice. And then we also have, which is really nice, a few references to the robot ravens that are on the tower, which I really loved. And they even had their own scene where the tower got shielded by the Tangabushi, so they couldn't physically see out, so they couldn't see the Tangabushi coming forward. And they used the robot ravens to go through, because no humans could go through the barrier, and to sort of have a look around. So I really like the use of the robot ravens, as it was sort of just a throwaway line in The Day of the Doctor, and I like the way that they used them in this. And then, of course, because of the robot ravens, who invented them? We had Malcolm, which he was referenced a few times. He was actually he was the one who put the hologram to hide the tower, and he was referenced a few times. He was physically involved in the story, and it would be great to see Lee Evans in it. I think that they should definitely get him in. I think they won't get him for Unit Silence, but on Silence even. But I think they should try and definitely get Lee Evans in for the 4th box set. That would be great, having Malcolm from Planet of the Dead in the Unit family again. That would be lovely. Then the ending to part 3, seeing the return of Sam Bishop, which if you are familiar with the first box set, you will know of Sam Bishop. I do believe he was in about 1 or 2 episodes, maybe even more than that. He wasn't in it much. I'm guessing that was down to other things that he was doing at the time of filming. I don't really know. Much like how they had some problems with Dark Eyes and casting and things and priorities of other actors. But yeah, Sam Bishop wasn't in it much this series, which, not gonna lie, it didn't really faze me that much, because I'm don't personally like Sam too much. I think that his character's a little bit bland, but I really like Josh. I'm glad that he was in it. I think that without Josh, may have been a little bit bland, but I did really like Josh in it. I thought that he's a great character. If any of them had to be killed off, I'd probably say Sam, because I think they said that the way to get him out of it was because he was going around the world doing some other troopy exercisey things. But yeah, he was in the final, which was nice, and then the sort of the resurrection, I guess, of the Lyme facilities. And yeah, it was fun. I really liked the final. I thought it was a nice little episode. Not as good as the Battle of the Tower, though. I really did like that part of the story. Felicity Lyme was back for the final. Really nice setting, having the Alps and things. I thought that was great. Basically, Felicity Lyme's idea was to use the alien technology to wipe out all the other power stations and things, and only have their power to sort of economically benefit her company. And about this point, the Tangabushi went home and were very happy with life, but then they realised that somebody on Earth was using Tangabushi technology, and then they weren't very happy about that, so they decided to come back, but this time bring their massive mothership with them, which sort of ruined things and messed things up a bit, and were going to threaten to blow up the world and all that. And Felicity Lyme didn't see the threat behind this. She didn't see the threat behind a giant saucer. But yeah, she thought that it was a setup and a bluff, which I find quite interesting. And yeah, it worked once again. I liked Felicity Lyme. Well, I didn't like her because she wasn't a likeable character, but she was a very good sort of human, trying to think that she was doing something right, but also being a bit of an annoying person at the same time, and being a villain. And yeah, the Tangabushi, it sort of, to the end of the story, it gave them a new benefit in a way, and it gave them some more advantages, because we got to know about their actual people, which I can't remember what they're called now. Get this right, because I've been saying that probably wrong throughout this whole review. And the Tangabushi are the warriors of these people, but they're actual sort of civilians as well, like humans. The actual civilians of this planet, or like the people, are called Kamishi. And then they bring the Kamishi with them. These are the gods of the giant deep voices, and they're all very, very menacing and all that. They're going to blow up Earth, and they bring Kate Stewart, Felicity and Osgood onto the ship, and they have a bit of a question thing about them. And they're going to blow up Earth, basically, and Kate manages to sort of see them round by saying, we're only small people. She uses like nursery metaphors and things and school things, and very interesting because they are a very powerful race, and they are essentially gods or something compared to humans. And I like the way that they did it. And then Kate and Osgood realised that what they could do is, instead of them blowing up the Earth to teach them a lesson, Kate and Osgood came up with the idea of, hang on, they can wipe everybody's minds on Earth, using the device that they've used many times, like the one on the Black Archive, where they can wipe people's minds at the end of every shift. They use that, but on a massive scale of the whole Earth, or at least the unit people who know about the Kamishi, and to wipe their minds. And the only people that know are Osgood and Kate, and they even wipe Felicity's mind as well. And yeah, I like that because the Tangabushi and the Kamishi actually work together and came up with this in their mind, sort of analysed the technology and realised, and they said that they would give the Earth a chance. And I think that at that point it sort of gave them a benefit because it didn't make them a villain. I think that it made them sort of see that, hang on, you could sort of imagine them being all godly up there, being like, hang on, they didn't really mean to do it, give them a chance to sort of, it was only a mistake, and they let them off. And I liked that because it wasn't just like, oh, the alien was defeated like how it was in Unit Extinction. In Shutdown, it's much more of a, we're going to give you a chance, and something that we don't really see too much in Doctor Who these days without being extremely cringy. In this episode, we also get the death of Josh. He sacrifices himself, and then, as I said, Dolan, earlier on in the story, took a very big interest in him, and as a thank you, the Kamishi actually bring him back, and they sort of saved him along with Dolan, I do believe. And I like that. Once again, it didn't really feel much of a cop-out because they sort of brought him back, which I really liked. I thought that if they were to kill him off, the next series won't be as good, not going to lie. I think that he's a really good character. And yeah, I like that once again. And there's a bit of something going on between Josh and Osgood. I think that you could sort of sense it a little bit in this one, but you can definitely sense it in this one because there is a bit of stuff going on, which I'll leave you to find out if you want to buy this. But yeah, I can definitely sense something happening by the end of the series between Josh and Osgood, probably. Don't know about Kate though, she's just on a lonesome recently. And Sam, I'm guessing that by the end of the story, I do believe he just goes off again to go on his world tour of, I don't know what he's doing, protecting the world of something. But yeah, overall, I think that's summed up. I think that generally it's a good box set. I did enjoy it. I don't know if I like it more than this one, because to be quite honest, I can't remember the entirety of the Autumn one. I can just remember it was very full-scale war-esque, and there was a lot of shooty and stuff. But generally, I think that this one had a bit more of a structure behind it. Because it was the second series, they knew where they were going with it, and it worked. I enjoyed it. As I said though, generally there is a bit of a problem because this is a massive 4-part story. People will be put off by it. Considering it's 4 hours, I think it goes very quickly. So some people, maybe more experienced with Big Finish, will get more of a benefit out of this rather than the new series. But if you're looking to get into Big Finish, you've already had the jump on point with the David Tennant box set, which I'll leave the other reviews of them. I've reviewed all the 3 episodes, so I would recommend checking them out if you're a new series fan. If you're a classic fan and want to get into the Big Finish stuff, maybe go for the Classic Doctor's New Monsters box set coming up, which I'm very, very excited for. Can't wait for that. Or go for some really good ones like Spare Parts, The Holy Terror, something like that. But yeah, generally a good box set. Next time though, we have Unit Silence, to which I was a bit worried about Unit Shutdown, because they sort of started to reveal Unit Silence and all this massive thing behind it with the silence coming back. And it's sort of people forgot about Unit Shutdown. I feel that even Big Finish did that to an extent. But yeah, it's an interesting one because I do believe it comes out in October, November. I think maybe November actually, much like how this did last year. And yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting one. But next series does in fact have a bit of a change around it. It's of course the same format in a way of having the 4 stories fixed together by the main plot itself. But we do have a bit of a change around, which I'm kind of sad by. Andrew Smith is staying, which I'm happy for this box set. But the one major change around for this box set, and the cast is staying the same as well, I do believe, and with Josh, Kate and Osgood. But Matt Fitton's no longer going to be in this series. I don't know if he comes back for the final. I don't believe the details for the Series 4 box set online yet. But John Dorney is coming on, so we're getting rid of Matt Fitton. Not to sound bad, but we're getting rid of him, unfortunately. And he's one of my favourite Big Finish writers, which I'm sad about. But we're getting John Dorney. Bad thing, because John Dorney's also brilliant. I know that people compare John Dorney to the equivalent of the Robert Holmes of Big Finish, which, yeah, so it's sort of getting rid of a good writer, bringing on another good writer. So it's not much of a big deal. I'm hoping that he brings maybe something new to it. That would be nice, maybe some new characters. We'll leave in the description below the link to go and buy this release from the Big Finish website, as I always do. It is £20, I do believe, at the moment, until the month after its release, and then it goes up to £40. So if you want it, buy it now, because stores, you get it for cheaper. And you also get the digital download with it as well. I don't know how much the digital download is. I think it's about 20 quid by itself. But yeah, you may as well get the physical thing, because why not? As I said, you don't really need much of the context of this, although it's nice to have it anywhere. But yeah, other than that, it's a good release. I do recommend it for the people who like Unit. But yeah, it's not the best of stories, but still, it's a good crack at the whip of something that, once again, they've got the new series and they're using it very, very well. So thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please do give it a big like, and please subscribe if you're not already. If there are any questions, please do leave them below, and I'll be sure to answer them at some point in the near future. Thanks again for watching. I shall see you all next time. So thanks for watching, and bye for now.